The following clip is from the North to South Show, live every Monday and Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, where we talk SEC football everything. Now, we'd love to have you out for next show, but for now, hit that like button down below, hit that subscribe button, and enjoy this clip. Now, these are my favorite segments to make by far, the ones where I don't need any notes, any stats, anything like that. Like, I got my computer screen completely closed right now, and I'm just going to talk off the top of my head, and I wish so bad that in some way, shape, or form, I could have my other side, like both sides of these two arguments, because I feel good about this 12-team playoff. Like, there's parts of it that I really like, and there's parts of it that I don't like. So if I could split myself into two people and just have an argument back and forth between those two, I'm telling you, this would be the most entertaining video. But sadly, I can't do that, so you're only going to get it through one person. It's only going to be me arguing basically with myself both sides, but it's going to be an amazing video or amazing segment because it's very interesting. Looking at this 12-team playoff, everything that comes along with it, all the talks and everything about the 8-team playoff, you have people who feel really strongly about that happening. You also have the people who feel really negatively about that happening. And I say this with so many different SEC teams and so many different topics that I talk about where I am in the middle, but I truly am. Actually, I wouldn't say that I'm in the middle in this case, but you'll see when I start talking about it. So first I want to talk about what I like about the 12-team playoff. Because first of all, when I heard that they're looking at a 12-team playoff, it sparks my imagination. I like change sometimes, I really do. So hearing that they're thinking about going a 12-team playoff was very interesting, and I was pretty much for it when I started thinking about it straight off the bat. I like it more than 8 teams because the more the merrier. The more great games that we could get into, the more teams that we could get into. I love, basically the whole reason I want to see a 12-team or 8-team playoff is, one, to get that one group of 5 team in, to get your Memphis, your Cincinnati, your Boise State, your App State, your whoever it is, whoever is the top group of 5 team in any given year. I want to see them get their chance. Yes, they're probably going to go out against like your 5 or 6 seed in this case, because you'd have 5 through 12 play each other, and then you go through, and then the 1 to 4 seeds kick in, and then you just basically have an 8 seed bracket from there. But I want to see the group of 5 teams get a chance. I think it would be very interesting, especially like a team like Cincinnati this year. If we could have got them in a scenario where, you know what, they play Georgia, and let's say that Georgia game, that Peach Bowl, moves them on to the next round, and that was a great game. If we could get more games like that actually mean something to the teams more than just holding up a trophy at the end and saying, oh, I won the Peach Bowl, I won the Cotton Bowl and all this. If you actually move on to a next round of the playoff, I'm a huge fan of that. Another big thing that I really like about the 12-team playoff is more SEC teams. And that's been something that I've really wanted for the 8-team playoff because I'm a huge SEC fan, and I know that SEC teams got the best teams in all the country. So I just want to see more SEC teams in the playoff. It's as simple as that. I'm talking, you get a 12-team playoff, you are getting at least 3 SEC teams in there. Like, instead of just having Alabama this year, you would have seen Texas A&M get in, which I think that Texas A&M should have got in regardless. But on top of that, 12 teams, you probably would have got your Georgia and Florida as well. Any given year, the years where, let's say, Missouri is really good because they have some really good years. You have the years where maybe Kentucky takes a step up. You start to see these teams, these second-tier SEC East or SEC West teams that aren't your Alabamas, that aren't your LSUs, that aren't your Georgias, that aren't your Floridas, teams like that actually being able to step up and compete for a playoff spot. I think that makes the regular season of the SEC very interesting because you're not only focused on that number 1 spot in each division, it also matters about who comes second in the division, can they be able to fight in for a playoff spot, all different interesting things like that. So that's what I like about the tournament, just more games, more meaningful games and everything like that. But when you take a step back and you look at it long term and everything like that, I say my argument is I want a 12-team playoff to have more meaningful games. Is that true? Does this playoff really create more meaningful games is the argument that I'm saying. I'm saying in the short run, if you would have implemented this last year and said 12-team playoff, I'd have been like, yeah, I'm all for it, go for it. But if you're saying this as a permanent answer to fix the college football playoff and everything like that, because you want more meaningful games, you got to take a step back and you just got to look at yourself and say, how does this affect the regular season? How does this affect the conference schedule, the conference championships and everything like that, all of that kind of fun stuff? How does it end up playing like that? Because you look at your big regular season games. You look at not even SEC. I'm not even going to talk about SEC because that's our next segment. We're going to talk about how this 12-team playoff could affect the SEC. But you look at games like Ohio State, Penn State, a game that the past couple seasons, yet last year might be a bit of an exception because Penn State wasn't the greatest. But you look years prior, and that game pretty much determined who was going to be fighting for a playoff spot and who was not, because Ohio State and Penn State weren't both going to the playoffs, but you expand that to a 12-team playoff now. Does the loser of that game really matter? Does it really matter if you win or lose that game? Yes, obviously, if you win, you have one less loss. It looks better. You're going to get better seeding. You have a better chance of making it to the playoffs. But does that loss for Penn State or Ohio State in that scenario kick them out of the playoff totally? And I think that's what we're going to kind of argue here, is that regular season is the bread and butter of college football. And you look at college basketball, comparing it to college basketball, March Madness and the postseason is the bread and butter for college basketball. That's because that's when you have the tournament going on, you have all these games and everything, single elimination, all that fun stuff. And yes, there are people that watch the regular season. I watch all the Gamecocks game during the regular season. I'll tune into some bigger games like anytime Kentucky or like Duke or Kansas and like Michigan State. Anytime you have two big teams going out like that against each other, or Gonzaga or something like that, I'll watch it. But it's not like you're not going to be as involved and as invested in the college basketball regular season, because the regular season doesn't matter. If Duke loses to Gonzaga in a regular season game in college basketball, you're not kicking Duke out of March Madness. It's just impossible because they have 64 teams. In college football, when you play only a 12-game regular season schedule and then you have conference championships, and that's all you have, those 13 games to get into a 14 playoff, every single game is do or die. And I think that is where college football is such a unique American sport, that every single game means something. Every single game means something to your record. Every single game means something to the outcome of the team. You look at the NFL, like the NFL, you're going to a 17-game schedule now. You have a 7-team each conference playoff, so 14 teams in total. You could lose a game. You could lose a couple games. Basically, you're looking around, I guess now 11-6 and 10-7 is a playoff berth or something like that. So you still have lots of room for error. You have 6 or 7 losses that you can obtain to still make the playoffs. You look at baseball. Baseball plays 162 games. Like, you're going to lose a good portion of that. You're going to be at least like 60 losses or something like that for the average team, 110%. You look at basketball and hockey and everything like that. You're going to lose 10, 20, 30 plus games. It's guaranteed. It's just how the sport works. In college football, if you want to make a playoff run, you have one loss, not even one loss sometimes. Sometimes you cannot lose a single game to make the college football playoff. And I think that's what makes college football such a great sport and everything like that, is the regular season games mean so much to the teams and the outcome of the team in the end of the season and everything like that. You can't see, let's say you take this Georgia and Clemson game. If you have a 12-team playoff this year, does it really matter who comes out of that game with a win or loss? All that matters is that one team is going to have a better seed than the other team, because in the end, both those teams are going to make a 12-team playoff 110%. It's just whoever wins that game is going to have the better seed. Does it really affect the outcome? You're making it to the playoffs. All your goal is to get to the playoffs. Seeding doesn't really matter, because if you are truly the best team in the playoff and you really think that you have a serious chance of making a championship run, you'll play whoever. You'll beat whoever because you think you are the best team. So whoever winning that game means something? Does whoever wins the ACC championship, or does whoever win the Big Ten championship or the Pac-12 championship and all that kind of fun stuff actually mean something now that you have 12 teams? Because I guarantee you, conferences like the Big Ten, they're going to get at least 2 teams in. You're going to have your Ohio States, your Wisconsins constantly battling out because they're usually at the top of their divisions. You're going to have Northwestern, obviously won it last year, or won the Big Ten West last year. So you're going to have teams like that. You're going to have your Penn State, Michigan, all those kind of teams. And it's going to be it's more interesting to see who comes in second place, because the Big Ten championship won't mean anything anymore. Will guys even play in those games and everything? Because if you know both of your teams are the top 12 teams in the country, does it really matter who wins that game as long as you were making the playoffs? Are you going to sit some guys because you don't want to risk having them hurt for the playoffs for a meaningless Big Ten championship just for seeding, even though it's going to make minimal difference to whatever seeding you were going to get in the first place? it's just stuff like that. So you look long term, you look short term for me. Short term, I like it. I just like the idea of having multiple teams in. I love the idea of having your group of 5 teams in and they get at least a chance. But you look long run of this, I give you 2 games of group of 5 teams in the playoffs and you get bored and sick of it and you just say, you know what, this wasn't a great idea. You know what, maybe one team goes out and shocks them. I think Cincinnati's a real good team this year, but most likely, if you get a group of 5 team and have them go up against your 5 seed in the college football playoffs, so let's say Texas A&M was to go up against Cincinnati, I'm taking Texas A&M still. The game's going to be maybe good, but you're just going to see these group of 5 teams not win the games and just be like, what's the point of having them in here when we could get, let's say, the 3rd best team in the SEC in here instead of the group of 5 teams? So the whole group of 5 thing scenario, initially, I do want to see it. I want to see it at least once or twice, but I think once you get to that 3rd, that 4th, that 5th, that 6th season and everything like that, you're going to start to see repetition that these teams aren't making it as far as that you would have liked to see them in these playoffs. They're not playing as competitive games as you would like to see them. Another thing, again, long-term, regular season games, it's going to shut them down. Conference championship games, it's going to make them less meaningful and everything like that. Basically, this 12-team playoff is just trying to go at March Madness and make more of a moneymaker in your postseason, although you already have probably the most exciting and thrilling regular season out of any sport in all the United States, maybe even the world. The regular season in college football is one of a kind because of the scarcity of the spots for postseason appearances in terms of being able to compete for a national championship. Yes, there's still postseason spots and let's say bowl games and everything like that. You could go play in the Tony the Tiger Bowl, or you could go play the Belk Bowl, the Birmingham Bowl, all those fun things. But only 4 teams get to go to the playoffs, and I think that's what makes the regular season so interesting. So that's kind of my initial opinions on how it looks in college football. I'd be for it. I'd be interested in it, and I feel like a lot of people would the first couple seasons, but then I think it would just get repetitive, and you'd see a die-off of the regular season. You'd see it just become less exciting, and you'd just see maybe the competition of games not being as exciting as you initially thought. So 12-team playoff, short run, yes. Long term, no, is my opinion.